from one major potential killer feature, I'm left a bit worried about what Samsung are doing to the Galaxy S series. So yeah, let's talk about it. Yo, what is good people? Ben from Lover of Tech. It's that time of year again where Samsung are releasing their new S series flagship devices, and this time of course for 2026 is the Galaxy S26 series, consisting of the Galaxy S26 Ultra, S26 Plus and the S26, with an honorable mention with the new Galaxy Buds 4 series with the Buds 4 Pro and the Buds 4, which they don't usually do at this time of year, but I don't know, they decided to fast track it. No complaints, they look actually quite decent and good. But of course, you know why you're here. You're here for the S26 series, and of course, especially the main boy, the S26 Ultra, or maybe there are sleeper hits with the S26 Plus and the S26. Obviously, I had hands-on with it on the 18th of February, exactly a week before the embargo that you're seeing right now on the 25th of February, 2026. And of course, I should be getting my devices in so you can get a full testing and shebang. But for now, let me give you a breakdown of what we're working with, of course, starting with the Galaxy S26 Ultra. For the S26 Ultra for this year, Samsung's Ultra flagship phone does now come in 4 new colors. Now, the hero color is known as Cobalt Violet. Yeah, it's kind of like an off purple kind of color. That's the main hero color. And you've got the sky blue, black and white. Online exclusive colors are the silver shadow and the pink gold. They tend to separate the standard colors to the online ones. And yeah, they've pretty much kind of slimmed things and made it slightly less heavy, 214 grams, 7.9 millimeters thin. And the overall design is very familiar to what we've come to know. It is boxy but slightly curved. You do have the S Pen that's in there. And of course, the ones that differentiate in terms of the color are the ones that you're seeing on screen. And I believe that's the white one. Again, once I have my review unit in, I'll give a much more thorough breakdown. This hands-on, as always, is no less than just under an hour that you're having to get through. So it is really just a very, very quick hands-on and taste. Now, you're seeing at the back that the design has pretty much changed, and it is reminiscent to what you were seeing before with the S25 Edge. So you've got that kind of like circular island in a way that you've got, and then the separation part is obviously the laser autofocus and that 3x 10 megapixel sensor, which we're going to talk about a bit later. So the overall design, yeah, it's good. It's kind of aligned with what you saw before with the S25 Edge. But they've brought it over to the Ultra with the different colors, and of course, the more rounded shape. It's slimmer, slightly lighter, so a bit more refined and kind of just perfected in Samsung's light. So again, the design and the build quality is premium and Ultra, but one thing that might be gone is the fact that they are probably not using titanium. I'm saying probably because I do need to confirm this, because nothing was mentioned in the material and the presentation about still using titanium, and the titanium is not in the name anymore. So we can assume, just like what Apple did, we are back to aluminium. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, but I'm just putting it out there. I will get this confirmed, but just assume that they're not using titanium in any way, shape or form like they were before. Overall, this is the design that we have and the build quality for the Galaxy S26 Ultra. This section here could be the one killer feature potentially that could set the S26 Ultra apart. And this feature is only available on the S26 Ultra, the display. Now on paper, you're seeing something that you're familiar with, which is a 6.9-inch display, super thin borders and bezels that are even all around, which is what you expect from the footprint and the design of an Ultra phone. And the resolution is 3120 by 1440p resolution. Is the dynamic AMOLED 2x display, 120 Hz adaptive, and of course the brightness level, as well as the PPI being 500 and above, and of course S Pen support, which we've all come to know, love, and maybe not appreciate as much, which again can be divisive. And some people might just want the S Pen to completely go like what we had on the S21 Ultra back in the day, but again, I digress. We come back to the main point, which is the new privacy, or depending on the part of the world that you are, privacy display feature, which is awesome. Yes, I have to admit this feature's clutch, and you're probably seeing it on the screen right now with how I'm demonstrating it. Oh my goodness, it works, and it's not just a trick that you're seeing on the screen. It was working in person. Now, Samsung have really put a lot of effort into just not make it a feature that is on all the time. It is adaptable and it's toggleable. Toggleable, is that even a word I can even use? Listen, toggleable. Comment that in the comment section below, and I know that you're actually watching this video. You can use a toggle. Now, when you see in the drop down for the display settings, as you're dropping it down, you can see that you can actually press the privacy display to go in there. And there's different levels and layers of it. You can actually toggle it on and off. And even when it's on, there is a maximum level toggle that you can toggle on for even much more intense privacy. And then you can actually set conditions for it. Now the conditions is awesome because again, if you get to certain locations in certain places, it will automatically activate itself. And then you can use different apps in those conditions that set it on and off depending on how you want the privacy display to actually work. And also it's adaptable to the software that is One UI 8.5. And why I say that is that there can be a pop-up section that it actually just blurs out and actually those sections of the display that you want. So for example, a text message comes in with password codes and you get certain notifications, it will blur out the privacy of that section of the display so that the people from the left and the right don't really see it happening when it's on. So this is actually very clutch and very useful. Now, this display feature for the privacy display works really well. And I see the potential for all the real world scenarios that we're actually talking about. This is really, really good. And of course, the nature of the Galaxy S26 Ultra, if you're signing things like documents, NDA stuff, and you want to keep things private, this is a very useful feature to have, right? I just don't know. And here is where I want to be proven wrong. When I was asking my feedback in the hands-on, I clearly did not pull my punches and I said that I'm worried that as great as this feature is, which it is, and this is a very, very ultra-based feature where you're not seen on any other devices, not even on the S26 Plus and the S26, so just remember that. I don't know if this potentially could fall into a party trick. One, a very useful and very good party trick, but that's where my worry is. My worry is also the long-term effect of the screen quality when it comes to using it. How much of that visual fidelity are you losing when it comes to sharpness, contrast, detail, colors? You know, I'm not too sure, right? Only time will tell. And also the resistance against smudging. Honestly, my S25 Ultra smudges so much that it affects the quality of the selfie as well. I don't know if anyone else has really come across that, but my S25 Ultra as well as the S24 Ultra, and I don't know whether it's because of the anti-reflective screen technology that they've got under there, this is something that did not hold up as well that I would like. So these are the things to come into consideration. Again, they've talked about a new Pro Scaler display technology where it upscales really, really well. And of course, it's now a 10-bit panel. There's so much more in there. If I've missed anything, I will definitely clarify once I've got my review in it and also my full reviews kick in. But yeah, I think this privacy display feature, this could be that one killer feature that sets the S26 Ultra apart. Next place where you're seeing some major changes, or let's just say some changes, is the camera system. Of course, on paper, when you look at the hardware, pretty much everything is the same. 200 megapixel main wide, 50 megapixel ultra wide, 50 megapixel 5x, and a 10 megapixel 3x zoom. I'm in major contention with this, and of course the selfie is still 12 megapixels. Here's where things are different. The aperture. The aperture has improved on the main 1x sensor as well as the 5x, and I believe the 3x as well. I'm not sure if the ultra wide, I don't believe the ultra wide has, but I know for sure when it comes to the main 1x, the 3x as well as the 5x, we do have improved aperture where we are drawing in more light. And of course, with the new system on a chip, which we're going to talk about when we get to the performance section, we should get better image processing as well. I'm in major contention with this because honestly, 2026, and we are still using a 3x 10 megapixel sensor. Improved aperture or not, Samsung, I don't know why we're doing this. Why are we not really shaking things up when it comes to the camera? What about improvements to the selfie? Why not actually get rid of the 5x, get rid of the 3x, especially that 10 megapixel 3x, get rid of it. Why not bring it into a 4x triple camera system? Make the 4x much bigger than before, bring it up to 100 megapixels, or keep it at 50 megapixels. Or if you want to do 200 megapixels, make it a 4x, really improved the in-sensor cropping where you can go up to 4x, 6x, 8x, 10x, and bring a new 50 megapixel sensor that is much bigger, closer to 1-inch type size. Where is the innovation when it comes to the hardware for the camera and the selfie? Why have we not got a high resolution selfie that is a bigger one as well? I'm just left a bit perplexed, and I know there's just going to be a lot that they're going to be talking about when it comes to nightography for nighttime pictures as well as video, and of course all the features, but I'm just worried this hardware within the Samsung bubble personally is probably not looking as oomph as I want it to be, right? Again, what are some of the improvements to the actual camera software? There is a new APV video codec, which is like the advanced video or advanced professional video codec, which is kind of like a near lossless video codec. Again, it occupies a 42 HQ color space. So think of this as potentially their ProRes equivalent to what Apple do. Again, they're saying that it works natively in DaVinci Resolve, which is my video editing of choice. So I'm going to test that. I didn't have time to really do any samples in those situations. And of course, when it comes to the LUT control, what is good is that you do have new transformation LUTs, and it's not just your basic Rec 709 LUT. You do have different creative ones that are there as well. I think 5 new LUTs that are built in natively. So the camera is refined. Samsung have one of my favorite camera hardware systems, being able to shoot 8K on an ultra wide main 1X and a 5X, switching between the lenses and to the selfie. They pioneered that. But again, I mean, is this their killer edge still? I don't know. Again, this is the place where you're going to be finding me doing my definitive camera comparison against the competition. So if you don't want to miss that, you know exactly what to do. Make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss it. But for now, my thoughts on the camera leaves me a bit jaded. I am a bit worried. Let's see if Samsung can prove me wrong when we put it out into the real world. Next area where we see some changes is the battery and charging technology. And I say some changes because in terms of the battery capacity, 6th generation in for the 2020 decade, and we still have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Yep, you heard correctly. Since the S20 Ultra, we are still rocking a 5,000 milliamp hour battery. Now, where the changes and improvements are is that we are supporting 60-watt charging. Finally, we needed this increase, and you know that is one thing that I'm a big advocate for in general and on this channel, fast charging of some relevance. And what they're rating is within 30 minutes, you should get 75% battery charge. But again, I'm gonna be testing that. Apparently there should be a new 60-watt charger coming out. Samsung do have a maximum 65-watt trio charger that has 2 USB-C ports and a USB-A port. So I'm gonna get that. And what I am being told is that because of the optimizations that they've done, you could use the native cable in the box to get the maximum fast charging rather than the dedicated 5-amp cable. Again, I'm gonna take their word for it, but I might play it safe and still use the 5-amp cable to really test this. And of course, every year what I do is the fastest chargers, which one is there for you? So I'm most likely gonna do 65 watts or 60 watts versus 45 watts versus 25 watts, all the way down to 15 watts. So if you wanna see which charger works best for you, watch out for that video. It's my yearly tradition. I'm definitely gonna get that done. What they've also improved is the wireless charging, which is now 25 watts. But what they have not improved is native magnetic charging. Yeah, no Qi 2 standard in here, baby, not natively. Yes, through the official cases that Samsung offers, you can get it. So they will say that it's Qi 2 ready, but not T2 natively ready. 6 generations since we've seen such technology on other phones, we still don't have it here on Samsung. And we don't even get a bump in the battery capacity to like 5,200 or 300 or 5,500. It's still 5,000. As someone that does religiously extreme battery drain tests, which once I get my review in it, watch out for it, it's gonna be live the next day, the turnaround is gonna be quick. I'm left worried. I'm left more than what I've never been this worried when it comes to battery life on a Samsung from the jump. And I've said it before with what I experienced with the S25 Ultra, I don't know how well this is gonna hold up. So yeah, irrespective of them adapting silicon carbon or not, I'm worried about this when it comes to battery. So yeah, let's just put it to the test as well as verifying the charging for wireless and wired, and we'll go from there. But for now, this is what we're working with. Last, next to the software is the chipset performance. And on the S26 Ultra, we are getting, as expected, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 4 Galaxy chipset accelerated processor AP. And yeah, this is expected a specialized version of the Snapdragon Elite chipset for this generation, top of the line for Samsung only. We finally do get 16 gigabytes of RAM, but that is reserved for the 1TB model only, I believe. It might be on a 512, but I know for sure 16 gig is on a 1TB model, just like what they did with the Fold 7. And of course, the Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 4 Galaxy is gonna be fast and blistering. We're gonna test it and see how it really comes out. That's what we're working with, but you know, there is a regional split. Again, as mentioned, we do have the S26 Plus and S26. Now, let's just put it out there. The S26 Plus and the S26, when it comes to everything you're seeing, it's pretty much the same as last year, apart from the design and the colors, which mirror the same of what you're seeing on the S26 Ultra, meaning that in terms of the battery on the S26 Plus, it's still 4,900, but with the base S26, we do see a slight increase to 4,300 milliamps, so battery testing that's gonna be very interesting. When I see such an increase within the same chassis, I'm thinking, why couldn't you add that extra 300 milliamps on the Plus model, and especially on the Ultra model, bringing it to 5,300, and then bringing the Plus model to 5,200? I don't know. But what's also interesting is the return of Exynos. Now, for the UK region, from what they told us, the Exynos 2600 is pretty much going to be the world's first 2nm processor for a system on a chip. So that's going to be interesting how that translates. Now, when it comes to that, the 8 Elite Gen 5 is pretty much going to be North America, China, and Japan only for the S26 Plus and the S26. But every other region for the S26 Plus and S26, you are getting the Exynos 2600. Now, of course, globally, from what they've said, and again, unless I get this wrong, please help me clarify, and I will clarify later on, the global and every single region that you get the S26 Ultra is going to be Snapdragon powered for Galaxy. So yeah, that's pretty much what we're working with. Now, of course, with those, you do get 12 gigabytes of RAM, 256 and 512. So what's good is that all of them start at 256. 1 terabyte is obviously available on the Ultra with 16 gigabytes of RAM. Now, performance-wise, we're going to put it to the test. I don't know if it's going to be worth doing something like an Exynos versus Snapdragon one for the S26 Plus when it comes to battery and image processing for the camera, as well as performance. If you want to see that, maybe I might put effort into do that, but obviously for the Ultra, it is Snapdragon globally all around. Yeah, Exynos is back, people. It's meant to be 2nm. It's meant to be good, but we don't know until we try it. And as track records go, we just don't know until we know. Apart from that, man, like I said, software-wise, you are looking at One UI 8.5, Android 16. As you know, for my channel, I don't like to really focus on software too much. There's some, Studio AI mode stuff, and there's a lot of, reinventions of how Bixby is meant to be, but for these hands-on, there just isn't time, and they don't all work until you have it personally set up with your own personal details. But of course, 3 devices that we've got there for the S series, Ultra, and you've got the Plus, and you've got the S26 base. Now, quick honorable mention is the Galaxy Buds 4 series, Buds 4 Pro, Buds 4. Again, for hygiene reasons, we couldn't wear them, but they look good, and hopefully I should have it alongside my review units so I can use it day to day with my S26 Ultra, and also when I shoot my day in the life as well. Release date that we're expecting for these devices is going to be 11th of March, but of course, if you do pre-order it, you do get it slightly earlier if you're looking to upgrade. Whew, man, getting through this, I don't know. Like I said, these are great phones. I mean, at this point, do you make bad phones? No, you don't. I just don't know what Samsung is telling us when it comes to the S series now. Is it not really their main focus because they know that you're gonna buy it anyway and it's the absolute super default Android device to get? Maybe, you might be wrong. Maybe we're gonna be seeing the bigger changes of it when we get to 2030, when it becomes the S30 series for the next decade. But for now, maybe just manage your expectations on what you're expecting Samsung to do when it comes to year-on-year upgrades, or even 2 to 3 generational upgrades. This is what we've got so far for the Galaxy S26 series, and yeah, prices will be linked in the description below as well. Let me know your thoughts. That's my early hands-on and quick impressions. Subscribe. We will be having the extreme battery drain test, the ultimate charging test, the speed test, the day in the life, the cinematic 8K reviews. We are going ham with it, of course, and you will not be missing any of it. So I really appreciate your support. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.